Okay, here we go. Last take that I'm doing. I'm gonna be energetic and I'm not gonna say a million times. Okay, marker. What's up, gamers? This is going to be talking about my painting for the Design the Sign competition for Brighton. And it's done in gouache, which is essentially watercolor. I'm sorry, watercolor heads, if that offends you, but I don't know what the difference is. Gouache is a little bit more permanent or opaque. Opaque, yes, that's what it is. It's opaque watercolor. So it's a watercolor style medium, and I'm gonna call it watercolor throughout the video because I don't know why. I just have been saying that all morning, and that's what I'm gonna call it. So I've had this idea for a few years of doing a watercolor Design the Sign competition submission because I think that it would be really cool to see a painting on the sign at Brighton, because the last few years has been I think all of the years have been kind of more of an illustration type of sign, and I like illustration. I just like painting better, and so I want to see a painting instead of an illustration on the sign. And I want to see my painting on the sign because I think I'm a good painter. But I've had this, that was a little bit conceited. I don't know. I want to win. Sorry. Anyways, it's hard. I live alone and I haven't talked to a human being today, and so it's tough to start your day with talking to a camera. I think that might be the reason that the first few takes didn't go so well. But anyways, enough about that. Watercolor and painting. So I've had this idea. I want to make a Design the Sign watercolor painting. One, because I like painting. I think it would be cool. I think it would bring a certain level of artistic, it would bring a certain amount of artistry to the resort to see a watercolor painting large on the sign. I think it would look sick, and it would bring that to the resort, the artistry, because our sport, sliding down the hill, has a certain level of artistry because it's artistic. It's an artistic endeavor. When you're going down the hill, there's no rules. It's just however you decide to paint the canvas with your skis or snowboard or snow skate or snow bike or whatever the hell else you want to take down the hill. I built my own snow skate once and took it down Brighton. Anyways, it had a leash. So I wanted to do this, and so I started out with doing a small little sketch in my sketchbook, my watercolor sketchbook. Then I moved up to a larger piece of paper because I needed it to be larger to scale better in the final photograph. And so I did one study, then I did another one on the larger piece of paper with like a yellow background. The yellow background wasn't working too well. And then I did another one with desaturated blues, but I still liked the one in my small sketchbook better because it had more purple blues and it didn't have the yellow background. And I don't know, for whatever reason, everything I do in my gouache sketchbook just looks cool. But to talk a little bit about why I chose this medium as well is Brighton requested in the submission that you show that your submission was not made by AI, and I despise AI because I'm a painter. It's kind of one of those things, where anyways, I don't like AI. I don't like it because also, like, a lot of local restaurants and bars and coffee shops and stuff have been using it recently to create like flyers for Instagram, and all of their flyers look the same, and it's taking the jobs of graphic designers. And I think that graphic designers and artists play an important role in our society. And it's, it's kind of weird to like, I feel like it's like begging for our jobs or whatever, but to make the case for physical medium, there's something about physical medium. When you can tell that it's done by a human being, when you can tell the human touch in it, when you go... I very recently, like, I've been a painter and an artist for, like, obviously my whole life, but like the last 10 years I've been seriously painting, and I've never really had a super like visceral reaction to a painting. I've always just really liked it because I've just done it out of like compulsion to do it, because I am compelled to create stuff. I see stuff and I want to recreate stuff, and then from there I want to make my own thing. But recently, in the last 2 years or so, I went to the Art Institute in Chicago, and I saw a Monet painting that really like tugged at my heartstrings, and I was like, oh, this is why I'm doing it. Like, if I could create even something close to this in my lifetime, it's called like sunrise mist at Giverny. It's like sunrise mist on the Seine at Giverny. If you're interested, and you look it up, it'll be on the Art Institute of Chicago's website. But anyways, digression. I had a really like visceral reaction to that. And I think that's what physical mediums do, and what painters do, and what artists do, and what artists bring to life, and what machines cannot. And so on the far end of the spectrum, you have AI, but then closer to AI is computer illustration. And I like computer illustration. I've done it. I do it. I like it. I just wanted to push it in the extreme opposite direction and do a painting on a piece of paper, to fully push it in the physical medium direction. And I think I accomplished that. I think that I really like the way that the painting turned out. I really like the wave. I really like how the highlights on the top right, the snow in the background contrasts the really bright snow flying in the air. And I really like doing the saturated mid-tone outline of the shadow on the bottom. And I really like the watercolor effects that happened within the wave. And every painting and piece that you do has kind of like the icing on the cake moment. And that was when I put the snowboarder in, super dark. It really tied the whole thing together. This whole thing was, it took a lot of learning, because I've never done a large watercolor, and so I learned that you have to saturate the piece of paper, get the water going and on there, and work with it on the piece of paper once it's on. But you have to you really have to work quickly, and that was challenging and fun and interesting. And the water really does some cool stuff and makes some cool effects just as the nature of the medium. And I really like it. And then the lettering. So another artist that really inspires me is Tom Sachs, and he does lettering like this on his pieces, and it just has a certain je ne sais quoi when you look at it. When you look at his work, for me, I'm really drawn to it, and it's mysterious why I'm drawn to it. I'm like, why do I like this so much? And I think it's because you can tell that human beings made these things, and then a human being put his touch on it. And to a layman or a neophyte, or I don't know, at first, right off the rip, you look at this and you go, I could do that. And it's like, yeah, maybe you could. But what makes it cool and original is that it's my handwriting and not yours. If you did, but it's handwritten. I didn't want to copy a typeface. I wanted to make it my handwriting. And it gives it that look of somewhere, it gives it that physical look. It gives it that physical touch of a person's handwriting. And but it is very intentional, where I've done 100 of these. I've written this out 100 times just to make it look just so, where it has a certain level of oh, I could do that, but also if you tried to do it, you would not be able to get it to look this good unless you do it 100 times. And same thing with the logo. The logo is pretty challenging, actually, because hexagons are hard to draw because you have to draw them symmetrically, and that's kind of hard to do freehand. And then you have to orient the other 4 of the hexagons. You have to orient them at an off angle, and that's kind of challenging, but I really like the way that it looks. And another aspect to it is that they teach you in design that a good logo, a child could draw the logo, and that makes a good logo. Because if your logo is too complex, it's I think one aspect to it is that if it's easy to draw, then it's easily recognizable, and if a child can do it, then I don't know, you're ingratiating that into a person at a young age, I guess, maybe. But also, I don't know, just something, it has that special thing to it when you do it. And I could spend a lot of time making it look very perfect, but I really like the look of keeping it a little bit loose. And another aspect to handwritten is that I'm going to handwrite it onto the painting itself, and that takes a certain level of skill and professionalism, where you need to execute it perfectly the first time. And that is different than digital medium, because digitally, at first I was going to do it digitally, but then I really wanted to push it in the physical direction to the extreme. And digitally you can manipulate it and hit undo and all that stuff, all that jazz. But physically you get one shot. If you mess it up, then you start over. But it gives it that, you can tell that like the person was really focused and intentional about what they were doing. And so yeah, that's all the reasons behind what I'm doing and why I did it. And I think it turned out looking really cool, and I hope you vote for me for the Design the Sign competition. And yeah, hopefully we'll see this on the sign at Brighton. Vote for me if you made it this far in the video. Thank you.